Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Atheist Experience. We are done being preempted by nonsense. A couple weeks off to repaint the studios, which that we can understand that completely. We come back for a couple weeks, and then last week we got preempted, so there was no show. For the people who don't live in Austin who are listening via the podcast, that's why there wasn't a new episode last week. But we don't expect to be preempted again until around October, when we'll have our next run-in with the Mormons. Who preempt us twice a year so that they can preach to everybody. But I'd like to welcome everybody. It's August 27th, 2006. This is a live call-in talk show. We will have the number up for you shortly. It's a chance for atheists in our community to interact with the public, for you to ask questions, for us to discuss beliefs and everything else. The audio portion of this program, as mentioned before, is available via podcast and download from the ACA website, www.atheist-community.org. And in addition to this program, the ACA also sponsors an internet bi-weekly audio program called The Nonprofits, which is hosted by the man to my right, Jeff Dee. Welcome.
Thanks, Matt.
How you doing?
Good. Nice to be on the show.
I skipped over that
Again?
Yeah. Jeff was here a couple weeks ago. He hosts the Nonprofits along with Dennis Lubay and Russell Glasser, and I'm on there as kind of an engineer chime-in guy. So we had a lot of fun. We were live yesterday. We'll be live again on September 10th. And we had more people connect live directly to the stream than ever before.
We had like 21, was it?
Yeah, 21 or 22.
Wow.
And for those who listen to the show, we were actually not under an attack that we thought we were.
Weren't you?
There was a problem with somebody's machine, one of our regular listeners, that was causing a loop of constant connections.
Does that mean he was the supposed attacker
He
last
was.
time?
He was. It was the same
okay.
IP. But I think somebody helped him fix his machine, whatever, the firewall or whatever that was preventing him from connecting. But as a reminder, Nonprofits is live again September 10th, and it's at 2 p.m. Central, which is 1900 Universal Time, we've come to discover, and there's a chat room that we run alongside that. Those who want to listen live and participate can get information at nonprofitsradio.com for how to connect to the stream and to the chat room. Both of those programs are sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. The ACA has weekly meetings at Romeo's on Barton Springs every Sunday at 11:30, except for the third Sunday of the month when we host a lecture series at the Austin History Center, which is located at the corner of 9th and Guadalupe. There will not be a lecture in September, however. Instead, we're going to be having, we were going to do this anyway, but there won't be a September lecture, and it's time to remind everybody that there will be the Bat Cruise on September 23rd, which I believe is a Saturday. More information is available at the ACA website. You do not have to be a member to attend this or any of the other events. Any atheist or atheist-friendly people are welcome. This was originally geared towards members, so for those of you who aren't members, you'll have to get in touch with a member in order to pay whatever fees are involved for the cruise. We host a number of social gatherings and get-togethers throughout the week. One in particular is Atheist Happy Hour, Thursdays at Ninfa's on Anderson near I-35 and 183. And that begins at 7:30. Have a couple drinks, get a dinner, talk to some people. There's new people dropping by every week, and we never know how many we're going to have, but it's always a good time. So without a lecture, I guess the only other announcement is the reminder that after today's show, like after every other show, the cast and crew get together and we go out to Threadgills on Riverside. And the show ends at 6 o'clock. We normally get there between 6:30, 6:45, closer to 6:30 usually. Any atheist or atheist-friendly people are welcome to come down there, but if you're coming down to preach or proselytize or provoke, don't bother. We'll have the number up for you shortly, and you can call in and say what's on your mind, because we kind of like to eat dinner and just enjoy ourselves. So, and I don't think there's any other announcements. So, without further ado, Jeff Dee.
Thank you, Matt. Well, this is an unusual thing, being on the show twice in a row. I know there was the 1 week gap in the middle one. What preempted us in the middle show?
Last week there was some kind of, I don't know, public access celebration weekend where they were talking about what kinds of wonderful shows are on.
Oh. Well, you shouldn't call that dumb.
Well, the part that was dumb about it was it only preempted the first 15 minutes of the show, and the rest of the show was just ads. So we could have gone on 15 minutes late if we'd have been able to work that out, but we didn't.
Well, but as a result of being on as co-host twice in a row, I have the unique opportunity of being able to respond sort of directly to email that we got from our last show.
Yeah.
And we got several, but this one I thought was the most interesting. KL writes, "I'm just discovering your show on podcast, and I love it. I really appreciate the patience and respect you show your callers." I'm not 100% sure that the last show he saw was the last one that I was on, but maybe it was. I mean, a lot of the email that we got was of the nature of saying that we dealt with the callers well.
Yeah.
Too often the hosts of atheist shows give in to the natural frustration of dealing with stupid ideas again and again. Keep keeping an even keel. By the way, I would like to hear that as a topic of a show. Why so many atheists come across as angry and bitter. I understand, being an atheist myself, but I know that Christians do not. My wife is a Christian, and she gets the same way when dealing with sects that are more fundamentalist than her own. But she can't quite understand why I get so frustrated with some of her ideas. So that's what I like to talk about. Why is it that atheists get this reputation for being angry and bitter? And I think the main thing is we are pretty frustrated. This question, the whole question, how come atheists seem angry and bitter, strikes me as pretty much the same question as, I don't know, how come Polish people don't like Polish jokes? Or, how come black people seemed so angry and bitter when they were enslaved? If you take a group and you subject them to pretty constant prejudice, they tend to get a little annoyed with it. And I think that's really the core of what we're talking about. It's not so much, KL brings up the issue of dealing with stupid ideas again and again. And of course, we're doing a show, so it's a call-in show.
Right.
It's to be expected. It's not like we have the same Christian listeners every week. They haven't all heard all of our responses to the standard things they have to say. And so we do get a lot of the same question over and over again. That can lead to burnout. I used to be the host of the show. I'm not anymore, and I'm kind of glad. But that's not really the issue. The issue is, for me anyway, the issue is the prejudice. In our culture, atheists are the most hated and feared minority that I know of. Maybe, maybe pedophiles, if they count as a minority, are hated and feared more than us.
I hope they're a minority. I hope there are far fewer pedophiles than atheists.
I think there probably are, but...
How many priests are there? I was sorry.
No, only a certain percentage of priests
You're right.
are pedophiles and protected by their church.
The rest are in Protestant churches.
For some reason, it's still okay in our culture to say the most horrifically slanted, bigoted things about atheists when every other reputable group has managed to assert its right to proper treatment.
And in fairness, I just basically did the same thing in reverse.
Yeah, you just did.
Yeah. And this person and several other people have commented, I really appreciate the way that you're respectful towards callers and whatever. But not everybody sees the show the same way. I don't know if maybe they're watching different episodes because it depends who's on, what's happening, and what kind of person, what kind of caller are we dealing with. There was a review of the show online that I found that fortunately only about 20 people or so have seen. But it called it, first of all, they obviously didn't know much about it because instead of the Atheist Experience, it suddenly became Dillahunty's show and his band of merry faith haters. And I was as charming as Bill O'Reilly on PCP. Now, while I don't necessarily think I'm always completely patient and respectful, I also don't put myself in the Bill O'Reilly on PCP category. I don't think I'm that scary. So probably the truth lies somewhere in the middle.
Do you hate faith?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I didn't mind that he called it faith hating. I minded that he misrepresented it as we hated those people of faith. I hate faith as a concept because it promotes mindsets
Now,
that I think are dangerous.
I did call a caller last week evil.
Yes.
Which was pretty extreme, and yet we got all these. Oh, you're so you treat the callers with so much respect. So I'm a little surprised by that. And of course, I should not have said it like that because I don't think that guy went out looking for a justification for hatred that he had of atheists. I think that he is in an organization that has convinced him that he can express those views about atheists and not feel bad about it. And it's the religious teachings that are evil and not so much the guy himself. I think he's a dupe.
It goes back to that comment of good people will tend to do good things and evil people will tend to do evil things, but it takes religion to make good people do evil things. When you call that caller evil, I understood what you meant, and I definitely agreed. I don't think that he, in and of himself, his character is evil. I think that in the course of trying to be good, he has actually adopted and agreed with a very evil philosophical position.
Yeah, but now in defense of my comment, I do want to mention that I'm sort of torn about admitting that mistake because I don't want it to give the impression that, oh, because I'm backing down now from calling the caller evil and simply calling his belief system evil, that therefore he's got nothing to worry about. The point of saying that to a person's face is to, as a sort of logical slap, like, dude, don't you realize what the consequences are of the things that you are saying? Yeah. There is certainly some degree to which people can avoid responsibility for supporting beliefs that are evil when they don't realize what they're doing. There is some amount of that is fair. But there's a point at which people are responsible for the words that come out of their mouths, even if they got tricked into saying them. At some point, they need to wake up and realize that they're perpetuating evil. And if they don't, I don't know what to do with that other than keep swatting them around verbally.
Well, one view that I came up with yesterday, which was part of a longer discussion, is calling the person evil, like you did, to me is a lot like staging an intervention and telling a junkie that they're a freaking junkie. It's kind of a snap to the conscience because in the junkie's mind, oh, it just feels good and I've got everything under control and it's not all bad. But getting in their face and saying, no, you're a junkie. You've bought into this thing that is corrupting your very being. It's affecting how you think, how you perceive things, and you're no longer capable of fairly judging what you believe or what you're saying.
Yeah. I do wish there was a better word that was just as forceful but slightly more technically accurate, but that's the words we've got. To get back to KL's letter and what he's talking about, I think we come across as angry and bitter because what we are, in fact, is frustrated and standing up for our own rights and for respect, and people who look at us and see us as angry or bitter are the people who don't realize that we're justified. They're the people who think, well, why are you atheists so annoyed about being told that you're going to go to hell? It's true. And that's the problem. The problem is that the hostility and prejudice and bigotry that atheists experience comes out of a religion that has a holy book and that has weekly meetings where people get together and tell one another, oh yes, atheists are indeed horrible, wicked people that deserve to be burned forever. And because of that, it never occurs to them that they might be going over the line and that in fact what they see as bitterness and anger from atheists is just us going, hey, how dare you say that kind of stuff about us?
A lot of it, it's how dare you intrude on my right to free exercise? I'm going to exercise my religion, and if you do anything to try and stop me, you're now oppressing me. But, I brought a news story, which is an example of what somebody might consider to be Christian persecution for...
Well, why don't you do that news story, because that's a nice segue.
It's really, really short, and it takes place in Berlin. A 7-member family faces eviction from an East Berlin apartment tower after neighbors complained about loud prayer sessions that kept the whole building awake at night. Pierre Dee, the 42-year-old father of the Christian family, said, "I really don't want to disturb the neighbors, but the high volume is needed in the battle against the devil." Neighbors told the newspaper that screams and singing that are part of the family prayers in the second story sometimes begin at 2:30 in the morning and can be heard all the way up to the 5th floor, and that this has been going on for 10 months. Now, one of the things the person who wrote that review that I stumbled across mentioned was that he basically accused us of lying when we say that we respect everybody's right to believe whatever they want. I think he's misunderstood. I completely respect everyone's right to believe whatever they want. You can believe whatever stupid thing you want. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to tell you that I think it's stupid, especially if you call into our show. I don't walk into churches, interrupt the service, and go up and tell the preacher that I think he's blowing smoke up the congregation's butts, and then stand there and tell them point by point what's wrong. That's their place. This is ours, and if somebody with a particular belief calls in, I'm not going to be dishonest. And I'm not going to feign, well, you have your beliefs and I have mine, and they're both equally good, because that's not true. There's this idea of looking at reality, and your beliefs, no matter how crazy they are, end when they abridge somebody else's freedom and rights. And if you're like these people, praying extremely loud so that it's disturbing the entire building, you deserve to be evicted. It's not oppression. It's not persecution. Nobody's preventing you from expressing your religion. Do it somewhere else. You don't have the right to do everything you want to do anywhere you want to do it at whatever volume you want.
And that raises another point that I want to address. I'm sure we have Christians watching our show who are, having just heard what you said, are going, well, if it's okay for us to have religious freedom of speech and say what we want that our religion prompts us to say, then again, why are the atheists so annoyed at what we say about them? Well, the thing is, it matters what you say, because if you express prejudice and bigotry against a group, it really is only a matter of time before somebody acts on that. So you are spreading and perpetuating a culture of fear and disrespect and hatred against atheists, even if you never lift an actual finger, as long as you join in with the chorus of atheists are bad, horrible, evil people that deserve to be tortured forever. And that, when we say, we look at your beliefs and we think that they're dumb, wrong, inaccurate, right, not reflecting actual reality, that's it. That's where it ends. We don't go around saying that because you believe what you believe, something bad deserves to happen to you, but that's exactly what you folks are saying about us. And that is what we react to. And, you can call it anger and bitterness, and I guess on some level it is, because of course we get angry and bitter when we have to constantly deal with this verbal barrage of hostility from folks like you. And there's one other thing that I want to say to Christians that are listening to the show. Of course you believe what you're saying. You are in a religion that teaches this sort of stuff. You have a holy book that you refer to that you believe tells you that this is the state of affairs, that atheists are enemies of your God, and that your God thinks that we deserve to be tortured forever, and all that stuff, right? So you think, well, this isn't prejudice or bigotry. We're just telling you the facts. Well, that would be fair if you could prove that your religion was true, right? We have no obligation to sit here and just take it merely because you believe. If you want us to believe that the horrible things you say about us are true. And frankly, if you want anybody to believe that the horrible things you say about us are true, it is your responsibility to prove that they are true. You can't just wave your hand and say, ooh, it's what I believe. Nobody cares. What matters is whether it's really true. And if it's true, you should be able to prove it.
And in the lack of proof, when you're living in a cooperative society with people of many different beliefs, you don't get to push your beliefs around. And, you know, you were talking about the angerness and bitterness and frustration and everything else, admitting this. It's not, I know Christians who the second you seem emotional or angry, because this perception that atheists, the intellectual rationalist argument, and blah, blah, blah. But if you actually feel, impassioned about what you're talking about, that's interpreted as angry and bitter, even if it's not. And even if you were angry, that is reinterpreted as denial, that you actually do believe in God. You actually do believe in my God, the God that I'm telling you about. You just don't want to admit it. You're just resistant. And your passion is evidence of that. Well, that's crap.
Yeah, and it is. And it's, you are the folks who are not admitting that you can't prove what you believe. The day that you can stop using the word faith, that will be the day when you have proved that your beliefs are true. As long as you require are required to rely on faith in order to justify your beliefs, that means you haven't proved it, you just believe it anyway. And I'm sorry, we are not going to sit here and just calmly take it and laugh it off when you say horrible things about us for no justification other than you believe it because you feel like it. That's not good enough.
As a little news clip to kind of go along with what we're talking about people exercising their religious rights to infringe on the rights of others. Representative Katherine Harris, a Republican from Florida, said this week that God did not intend for the United States to be a nation of secular laws, and that the separation of church and state is a lie that we've been told to keep religious people out of politics. Now, first of all, evidently she's speaking for God by saying that God didn't intend for the U.S. to be a nation of secular laws. Well, until she actually demonstrates that God exists and proves that that's not what he intended, the fact of the matter is the founding fathers intended this to be a nation of secular laws. Because the only way that you can have a cooperative society with people of different religious beliefs is to have the government be neutral to all of them. You can't show favoritism towards any. It's not a matter of specifically declaring one religion or one type of religion to be the official state religion. You need to be neutral. The government needs to be neutral to all of them. That's the only way that you can have true religious freedom. She went on to say, if you are not electing Christians, then in essence, you are going to legislate sin.
Good grief.
And examples of the sin, of course, trumpeting the same old tired lines as everyone before her, is abortion and same-sex marriage. Basically, you better elect Christians or the country's going to go straight to hell and you're going to have men marrying men and women marrying women.
I am kind of torn about that because she does have the right to express her opinion. The scary thing here is that it appears that what she's saying is she intends, if she gets back into office, that what she's going to do is legislate her morality rather than legislate from a neutral perspective toward all the different religious beliefs of Americans.
Right.
And that's where it's a problem.
Definitely.
The fact that she has her own opinion, the fact that she states her own opinion, that's fine. But when you go about doing the business of government, your job is to represent all the people, not just the ones that happen to agree with you on religious grounds.
Most definitely. Goes right back to what I was saying before. I respect her right to believe that, and even her right to say it. But acting on it, and I think this is just a sleazy attempt to draw a particular group of people more to come to the polls. It's this fear tactic we've seen before, but.
Yeah. So
what else have we got?
I don't know. Do we have the phone number up? This is a live call-in show. We are here to answer your questions. I'm sure there's people out there who disagree with some of the things that we've said. We are here to talk to you.
I know there are people out there. It's just I don't know whether or not Representative Catherine Harris is watching the show. If she is, she should call in, and so should Ray Comfort and Falwell.
I'd like to
and
know.
Robertson.
Getting back to what she said, the first thing that struck me was, I don't remember ever hearing anybody say that Catherine Harris shouldn't run for office because she is a Christian. I've never heard anybody ever tell any candidate at all, you should not run for office because you are a blank, except atheist.
Oh, yeah, and former atheists. See, here's the deal with another news story that I read today. The Democratic Party leaders want a former candidate for Attorney General who denies the Holocaust to stay out of their future primaries. So, of course, we are talking about our old friend Larry Darby, who was the head of the Atheist Law Center, was the American Atheists chairperson or lead liaison, whatever, in Alabama for years, and who is now a theist and who has evidently always been, or for many years, a racist, bigot, nut job. But the party's executive committee passed a resolution Saturday informing Larry Darby that, quote, he is not welcome in the Alabama Democratic Party. Now, borrowing a line from his new compatriots in, believing that God exists, Darby's response is immediately, this is the typical heavy-handed behavior of the Alabama Democratic Party for the last 30 years. They're censoring me for having the wrong views. Yeah, they are. And it's their party, and they're allowed to.
That's the point of a political party: is you get people with similar views.
Yeah.
And you get people with similar views together, and they work together.
It's specifically to prevent some nut job from going in and saying, I'm a Democrat and drawing the Democratic vote, or I'm a Republican and drawing the Republican vote, if his views don't represent the party at all. I'm sorry you feel that they're censoring you, but I think you pulled the rug out from under yourself.
And I want to point out, here we are talking about a former one of us, right? We're talking about a former atheist guy who was relatively prominent among atheists in the United States for several years, ran the Atheist Law Center and all that. We're very, very sorry. We apologize for any support that we gave him over the years. We just didn't know, and as soon as we found out, we started distancing ourselves from that guy, and his response was to stop being an atheist and go off and be a Christian.
Yeah.
So
when he was actually battling Judge Roy Moore over the Ten Commandments case in Alabama,
yeah,
he was doing good work. He even got Atheist of the Year from American Atheists then. As it turns out, there was another side to him. Nobody's perfect, and evidently he's less perfect than some other people. But
we don't make excuses for or brush under the carpet or ship him off to a different parish.
I'm not going to claim he was never a true atheist.
Right.
I'm pretty sure
and
he
it
was.
would be. You think so?
I'm pretty sure. I have no reason to doubt him. He said he didn't believe. He ran the Atheist Law Center.
I take people at their word when they tell me what they believe. But it would be awfully refreshing to see this kind of attitude from religionists.
Amen.
Accepting responsibility for kooks in their midst and taking the appropriate steps.
Yeah, why is it that Jim Baker can make so much money and be lauded as this prophet of God, and then as soon as he's caught in a scandal, it's, he's a sinner and he's not a real Christian and all this. It's absolutely stupid. And it comes off as completely unbelievable to anybody except these people who are trying to come up with, excuses and apologies. He wasn't really one of us.
Yeah.
We realize that his actions are going to reflect poorly on the rest of us, but the rest of us are the true Christians until the next person screws up.
Whew. Yep.
Crazy.
There's calls.
Let's take calls. We've got, is it Ivan?
Tyler.
Tyler.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing?
I've been watching your show whenever I can catch it. I just got back in town, and I get to sit in front of the television now.
Have you got your TV on? Can you turn it down or something? We're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay. Yes, my question was, really it's more of a statement. I'm a Christian, but I don't think that people that don't believe in Jesus Christ should burn in hell. I mean, that's their decision, and just like it's my decision to believe in Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. I don't look at anybody that don't believe in what I believe in any less of a person. And I think
thank
that's some of the twist-ups that some Christians can give off, that, you know, every person they meet that don't believe in what they believe in should burn in hell, you know.
Can I ask you?
I don't think that at all. Because, you know, I just rather die believing in what, you know, what Jesus Christ, I'd rather die believing than die than not to believe. I think I feel safe as some sort of insurance, like, you know. And really, you know, I watched the show and y'all seem like nice people. So, you know,
Well,
I
thanks.
have nothing against y'all. And, I pray that y'all forgive the people that do call in and lash out at y'all, because, you know, they not in the right mindset. And obviously they have some problems of their own if they think you should die or something like that just because you don't believe in what they believe in.
Yeah. Can I ask you one question about what you do believe?
Sure.
What do you think will happen to people who don't accept Jesus or believe in Jesus after they're dead?
Well, I mean, we really don't know, you know.
You just don't know.
You know.
That's good. Hey, I'll take an I don't know any day of the week. It's far better than some dogmatic assertion that, you know, God whispered in your ear that, you know, atheists are going to disappear or go to hell or whatever. I don't know is a perfectly acceptable answer.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But I have a question. I guess I was reading off a piece of paper. The lady was talking about, you know, that religion and politics shouldn't be intertwined. I mean, I'm looking at some money right now, you know, it's saying God we trust, and I just wonder why the forefathers would put that on the money if, you know, the religion and the government should be separate.
Right. Well, see, that wasn't added to money until 1956.
Not
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
It became official in 1956. It appeared on some coins in the late 1800s.
In fact, there was sort of this primordial money that was put out by the early government. Ben Franklin designed it, and it didn't take off. It was replaced by more official money later. It was like a very early thing that the new nation did to try to get organized. Ben Franklin designed it, and the motto on that money was "Mind your business."
That's funny.
That's a good motto.
You were saying that, you know, this government was made for, you know, the Constitution was made, you know, for religion to be freely, you know, you practice freely, whatever you want to do, you know, is your business, right? But back in the 1700s, the reason why people did come to, you know, the colonies was to practice freedom of religion and stuff like that. But, you know, it was only two religions, big religions anyways, and that was Catholicism and Protestant. And, you know, both of them have ties to Jesus Christ. And, you know, basically, if that was the case for this government, then, you know, really it was, you know, made for religion. Just, you know, Catholicism was so big back then. If you didn't believe in Jesus Christ, they'd kill you. You know, that's why the Puritans and, you know, the Pilgrims came over here to practice their beliefs, not such hardcore like the Catholics and stuff like that.
Well, there are a lot of examples of things like that, principles that made it into the Constitution that were not really lived up to at the time, right? I mean, they could talk about all men being equal. Of course, that's not the Constitution, but that's the principle the Constitution is based on. And yet, women didn't have the vote, right? And there was slavery, and there were a number of things that had to get fixed later, even though the principles were sound, right? And that includes freedom of religion. You're right, when in the early days, there weren't that many different religions actually going that you could freely practice, right? And now I hope that civilized people in the United States recognize that, you know, Islam and Wicca and Judaism and all these other non-Christian religions and atheism deserve equal respect, because this is a country for all of us.
Tyler, I thank you a lot for calling. I hate to cut you off maybe before you're ready, but there's some kind of audio problem. We're having a hard time understanding you. I just don't want to end up misunderstanding you. So
no misunderstanding here. It's nice talking to you.
Thanks a lot, Tyler.
Thanks
Appreciate
for calling.
the call.
And let me take that as an opportunity to make the point that I probably talked in general terms about Christians when we were discussing,
Sure.
the whole anger and bitterness thing before. Of course, I'm aware there are Christians out there who do not believe that atheists deserve to burn forever in hell. I'm glad that they exist, and I would much rather that Christians take that viewpoint and take that interpretation of their holy book. I just don't really understand how they can do that, because the religion, the writings themselves seem pretty darn clear. But hey, I'd much rather you stopped taking the ancient holy book called the Bible seriously.
Oh, yeah.
And just act like responsible, equal citizens. That's better.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's let's just go on to another caller. I don't want to keep people on hold forever, so I can say something twice. But we got Jonathan.
Yes.
How you doing,
Jonathan?
Fine. And when it comes to Christians, I'm a Christian, and if you're an atheist, you're not going to burn in hell.
Okay, why not?
Well, that's my belief, my relationship.
But how do you
with God
square
Almighty.
that, though? This is what I was just talking about. How do you square that with what is actually written in the Bible?
Well, it's something that you feel within yourself, your soul.
So you don't care what the Bible says?
No, I do care for what the Bible said, but there's also steps that you have to go. I mean, when we're talking about the ancient Bible, and when you go forward.
Yeah.
No, God. Look, I know atheists, and I'm just saying I have my belief. You have your belief.
Well, sure, we're cool with that. The issue right now is I'm curious about Christians who ignore what the Bible says about us. I mean, I'm not surprised
No,
at
it's
Christians
the way you interpret the Bible. Okay, how can I say that?
Okay, I definitely agree there, and I, like Jeff, have a difficult time seeing exactly how you can come up with interpretations that trump verses which seem to be fairly specific, listing apostasy as the only unforgivable sin, and that anybody who doesn't believe is going to perish in the lake of fire. Regardless of how you actually do it, my question is, what exactly do you think is going to happen to atheists when they die? Just in your own opinion, then.
In my own opinion, all right, I'll answer that, but let me just say one thing first. When a child's born in this world, and let's say that they're brought into a family that are atheist, and that child was raised as atheist, do you think that child is going to burn in hell just because she's an atheist?
I don't think anybody's going to burn in hell.
Well, I don't. Well,
we don't believe
I don't believe anybody's going to heaven
We're
either.
wondering what
like
you
that
believe.
does.
Do you think there even is a hell?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Believe there is a hell.
Okay.
But repeat that question again, and I'll answer it.
I was just curious what you. Let me rephrase it. What, in your opinion, since you reject the traditional dogma, are the criteria for entry into heaven or hell, or both?
Well, it's just what you do in life as a person to help others.
So you're principally a works-driven belief.
Yes, and to help others. And see, I believe in scriptures, and you always love thy neighbor, and see.
Well, that's certain scriptures, but those are fine. What puzzles me now again is, when we hear Christians tell us why one ought to become a Christian, right?
Oh no, I don't want people telling me that either.
Why? No, but why? What is the point? I mean, what is it that you get out of being a Christian compared to not being a Christian?
Look, I'm not a Bible thumper. I don't.
No, I know you're not, sir. I'm asking you. I mean, what is the attraction?
He's asking the exact same thing that I was going to ask.
In the traditional old-timey kind of Christianity, you needed to become a Christian because that was your ticket to avoid hell. That for centuries, that was the justification for people being a Christian. So, but if you don't believe that you need to be a Christian in order to avoid hell, then why are you a Christian?
No, I didn't say that. I said I'm a Christian. I said other people that are atheists.
Yeah.
Eventually, when they pass or die, God forgives.
Okay, so what?
But what you're saying is, then it is not necessary to be a Christian in order to escape hell, right?
Exactly.
So I'm just wondering, why be a Christian? What is the point?
Well,
what is the advantage? If you can live your life without worrying about any of that stuff and just be a good person, why be a Christian?
Well, if you're a good person, there is no advantage. It's your belief to believe in what you want, right?
Okay. Okay, fine, cool.
All right, well, guys,
we're happy with that.
See, you're a Christian that can come to dinner.
But but I am a true Christian, and look, I don't I believe respect other beliefs. Other people, the Muslims, and every other group out there, they have their own beliefs. So, and I have mine, and I respect it. But I believe mine is that's the way I live by, and I'll let you guys go.
Well, I got to say, thanks a lot, Jonathan, for calling. I mean, you can identify yourself as a true believer. Pretty much anybody could say that, and probably does. My thing is that I suppose that if I find out that I've been wrong, if I die and end up in some kind of afterlife, I hope Jonathan's correct. Maybe. It very much depends on what is heaven, what is hell. I mean, there's so many things that are just not defined.
I am still left puzzled, though. I mean, I don't understand why anybody would choose to be a Christian. That is to say, to believe in the God, to participate in whatever religion-oriented things.
Maybe his belief doesn't involve any of that. Maybe he has a belief and there's no practice. No. You're confusing religious practice with belief.
Yeah.
Maybe he has this belief and he doesn't practice or have any rituals or go to a church or do any of that.
Right.
This is just his understanding of the way things are. There is a God and everybody gets in. And I don't know.
It seems like a big leap to make if there's no payoff. That surprises me. I mean, traditionally, religion's needed the threat of hell in order to get people to say, okay, well, it can't be proved, but I'm going to believe it anyway because there's the payoff.
There's a reason that even moderate and liberal Christians still carry around the Bible complete with Old and New Testament, and that's because, they can't justify any of this, so they have to rely on that big argument from authority of, well, here's the authority, and now you've got, and I don't, kudos to Jonathan for coming up or having an understanding that he finds reasonable and doesn't fall into the nonsense
completely don't mind
of
sharing the planet with Christians like that.
Yeah, come on. Jonathan and any atheist or atheist-friendly people are reminded that we're going to dinner after the show, like every other week, down to Threadgills on Riverside. Feel free to come on down and join us. The show's over at 6. We normally get there about 6:30. Let's keep on going with Joe. How you doing?
Hey, good afternoon.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, I have a question for the gentleman on the left.
Yeah.
Your left or my left?
I guess that'd be my left. Jeff, I noticed you're wearing a dinosaur shirt.
Sure.
Does that mean that atheists believe in science?
Oh, wow. Okay, first of all, atheists are people who don't believe in gods, period.
Okay.
Right? That's all there is to it. I personally am a big fan of science. I understand the point, and it seems to work.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all I had.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for calling.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, we get down, what do atheists believe or what don't they believe? And, normally, I'm to the point now where on the show, I'd rather not have a disclaimer and everything else every time it comes up. Because in truth, no, atheists don't believe any one thing. I mean, Raelians, those people who think that we come from, aliens, they're atheists because they don't believe in God. But I don't think they share a whole lot of common beliefs with me.
They probably would say they believe in science, but they wouldn't know what they meant.
But when we're talking about whether or not you believe in science, it's more about whether or not, what do you philosophically accept as a viable and reliable pathway to discovering the truth of reality?
Yeah, I would say that that's science.
And I not only accept science as the most consistent and reliable method, I actively reject religion as being consistent or reliable at all in that, vein. But Mike, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going? I wonder if you guys have ever heard of this phenomenon called Mosaic law.
Sure. Mosaic law applies to the Jews and Noahic law applies to Gentiles according to Jewish tradition.
Oh, okay. Well, there's this radio show on RBN called It's called the George Gordon Law Hour. Have you heard of this?
No.
Let me just cover this real quick. It's kind of interesting because the line of belief is that if you strictly follow the 759, that's his number of laws
Sure.
of the Bible, you will escape any disease, demise, or misfortune that people experience daily. And if a certain percentage of a nation's population does follow that law, that nation will follow in kind. They will also not. So
I tend to find the claims about following all of those laws roughly equivalent of asking me to hover in the air without any aid.
I know it's laughable, but to hear the guy, he just kind of just asserts this in the air. Just really low key. He just says, "Well, boys and girls, if you don't, well, look what's happening over in this country." And then, but the other interesting thing he said the other day was, have you ever heard that the sun is supposedly shrinking at a rate of 5 feet a year or a day? You heard that?
I think last time I heard it was growing, expanding. I don't know.
Anyway, I don't buy all this.
There are a number of claims like that, and there is sound science. I'm sure you can go on and find out exactly what the sun is or isn't doing to the best of our knowledge.
Okay,
Right.
so he was sitting there saying, "Well,
I'm sorry?
he was saying that if the sun was shrinking at that rate,
Yeah.
then that means that he was extrapolated backwards in time that
He's a
the sun was a
moron.
lot larger, and then
Yeah.
that means that at the time the dinosaurs were here, the sun was actually touching the Earth."
He's an absolute moron who's making an assumption that it's always been a constant
Right.
rate.
Just because, even if it is true that right now the sun is changing at a certain rate, right? The sun size is changing at a certain rate in a certain direction. Even if that's true now, that does not mean it's always been true.
Yeah,
It's
it's
just
like,
dumb thinking. There's nuclear forces going on in the sun, and the material in the sun is getting burned up, and all kinds of stuff is happening in there, and it changes over time.
yeah, it's like watching my car pull into the parking spot and calculating that it took me 35 years to get here because I was only going 2 yards a minute.
Right. Or it's like saying that because the tree in my backyard grows at a rate of a foot a year, that eventually it will reach to Pluto. Well, no, but whether or not Pluto's a planet, that's just not true. It's dumb.
I know it was pretty funny. I just think you want to laugh at 6 a.m. every day. It's on. It's called the George Gordon Law Hour. I know if you want to get up that early or stay up that late, but
This is a radio thing?
it's like 90.1. It's where the Alex show, all the shows are on GCN, RBN.
All right.
And it's like 9.1 FM.
Yeah, my car stereo got stolen, so I can't really do that. And, oh, by the way, I'm not up at 6 o'clock in the morning, any morning, unless I've been up all night.
Yeah, I think they replay it at the same time at night, though.
I might check it out. I always like putting on a tinfoil hat every now and then for amusement. But
Okay, you guys have a good night.
thanks a lot,
Thanks.
Mike. Yeah, I hate, when you get asked right at the bat, have you heard this thing about the sun shrinking? Well, yes, I've heard that. I've also heard expanding, and I accept that that's possible, but I'm not a scientist. So if you've got some fact you want to toss out, and feel free. And if I don't know and I'm not sure, which is probably going to be the case, I might go look it up afterwards and maybe get better information next week.
Okay.
Although, honestly, I think we had hit the issue pretty good. That same claim about the Earth shrinking, that used to be a common argument with regard to the amount of dust on the moon.
Right. And I've heard it with regard to the distance of the moon from the Earth.
Right. And also with regard to coral reefs. They grow at an X rate, and the oldest one is this old, which means that creation happened right before this one.
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
But I don't know. I guess if
These are the same people, of course, who believe that because the stars are more light years away than they're so far away that the light from them could not have reached us yet if the Earth was
6 to 10,000
created in
years
4004 BC. They are willing to imagine that God created the light en route. But they're not willing to say that God made the sun change its size at different rates, or that God created the coral fully grown at a certain size at a certain time. I mean, they're just...
These are the same type of people who make that claim
If
about...
you're going to be that imaginative, then, cut loose, but be consistent.
My favorite is the claim that NASA has proven the missing day from when Joshua made the sun stands still. Because the story itself is so absurd, but then this NASA claim, I just get a chuckle every time. Is this? I'm told this is a true believer. Hello?
Hello?
Okay.
Lost him.
According to the call screener, that was a true Christian calling in to tell us that the previous Christians who called in weren't true Christians.
Yeah, I think if Christians want to argue amongst themselves who's a true Christian or not, they should just do that on some other show.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, if you tell me you're a Christian, okay, fine. I'm more interested in what you actually do and don't believe than what label you put on it. And even more than that, I'm more interested in what you do on behalf of those beliefs. You can believe that I deserve to go to hell, but it's whether or not you decide to start passing legislation to infringe upon my rights, to maybe force me to accept your religion, or prevent me from doing actions that you think are dangerous to my eternal soul. I don't know. If anybody really believes that I have an eternal soul, it's for sale. I don't think I have it, and you're buying it at your own risk, but we can negotiate a price. You got Steve, how you doing?
Fine, how are you doing?
Good.
I want to share some thoughts with y'all as I've been listening.
Uh-huh.
The thing, and I'll try to preface where I'm coming from, I am not a religious person, and I don't believe in all these Baptist and Methodist doctrines. But the one thing that I have done is look at the Bible as a code book, just as y'all would look at a building code book or a plumbing code book or a code book, not as a religious book, because there's at least 400 religions in this country, and at least 359 of them are wrong. Okay, so even in this concept of heaven and hell, these people preaching this don't go back and look at the old books that use those words in the Hebrew differently than how they've been translated to come now to manipulate people. And I think that's what y'all see. Y'all smell a rat, and you don't want all these rats coming out to tell you something that you know deep down that they're wrong about.
Well, I think what I see is that while the Bible may be correct about a couple of things, just like any other ancient text, and it may contain some bit of wisdom that our ancestors actually hit on, there's a lot in there that's wrong. And this blanket acceptance and saying that it's an authority is absolutely absurd. Why can't you say, I agree, it's wrong to steal other people's property, but it's not the Bible that tells me to do that, or God that tells me to do that. It's rational thought.
And I'd like to clarify, caller, before you go on. You were saying you think we smell a rat and so on. We do, but what the rat that we think we smell is not that Christians are misinterpreting the ancient writings and that heaven and hell really exist but are different than Christians say. We don't believe in them at all. We don't even think that the ancient writings on those subjects have anything to do with anything.
The Bible doesn't say you're going to heaven or hell. That's totally doctrinal, and I'd be happy to come out and show y'all. But the reason I called, though, is about, you were wondering about forgiveness, and is there some reward to having these thoughts, and if so, what is it, and if not, then why even have these thoughts? And
actually,
it basically is clear about that, not in a religious way, but in what's called resurrection, because heaven and hell are fairy tales. So are these things called trinities. A Holy Spirit cannot create something, even if you believe it's true or not, about a doctrine. These doctrines that you hear, Christ didn't die on a cross. That's a fairy tale. There's a lot of fairy tales, but when you look at the words from a scientific point of view and you see what the message is, and I'd be happy to at least, I'm not like a Larry Wessels or these other guys that want to hit you up with these doctrines, but, and I'm not a proselytizer, but just to share some time, I'd be happy to show you from like a code book. I mean, is there anything wrong with what it says about food and other things like that other guy was talking about, Mosaic law? Those can actually help you. There's nothing wrong in those. And
I don't necessarily know that I'd agree that there's nothing wrong in those. Granted, I don't have a list handy, but having reviewed them in the past when I was a Christian and when I was studying these issues in the hopes of eventually becoming a preacher, there were plenty of things that were objectionable, ill-advised, and stupid about some of those. And this idea that the Bible coincides with science...
I didn't say that. I think science... what I'm saying is the Bible is just simply a code book for your body and your soul. and it's very misinterpreted by probably 98.5 of the people that read it.
Caller?
Yeah.
Could you clarify what you say it's a code book? Are you then saying that somebody wrote these codes down, and for those who can interpret them correctly, there are like advantages to be gained?
Well,
and who do you think concocted these codes that you think you're seeing?
Well, it says it's divinely inspired, and the way I prove that is by reading a psalm, for instance, that David wrote 1,000 years B.C. that mimics word for word what something in Matthew said 1,000 years later, only word for word. How did he see those exact words?
You don't think Matthew had seen those words, or the author of Matthew, or whoever compiled this later on had seen those words?
Well,
you're talking about the Jewish Messiah.
He was describing an event. And then you see it 300 years later, and Isaiah wrote things that he saw that happened at a slightly different time, and then what happened, you can go back and forth and see that it was prophetic, but people don't look for this type of stuff. They're just talking about heaven and hell and things to manipulate people.
People constantly look for the prophetic, and there have been tons and tons of claims about prophecy. I'm finding myself a little confused about you calling and you're saying that you don't believe in any of these doctrines, but you have this alternate view. Okay, so maybe you've got your own new religion, but what you're basically still saying is that the Old Testament is prophetic towards the New Testament, which justifies whatever beliefs you want, and that you can demonstrate this. Fine. Send me an email, outline specific arguments, and I'll be happy to reply. But I'm not going to waste an entire show talking about claims of prophecy and claims that science confirms the Bible and other things that have been refuted over and over and over again. So email tv@atheist-community.org. Put together whatever you need. I'll be more than happy to talk about it from whatever standpoint. I've had arguments with theists where I, essentially held an arm behind my back by arguing completely on their terms, exegetical or not. So, it drives me crazy because
I was just trying to get him to say that he believes there's a God, because that's the issue, right?
No, he said it was divinely inspired.
If he wants to claim that this is a code book, then he is claiming that there was a code writer, and if what he means by that is there's a God, then the next question is, dude, prove that the God exists. Don't point to the codes that you think you're seeing and say that's proof. That's not proof of anything. You remember God, my brain wants to say Da Vinci Code. What was the thing? The Bible codes, right?
Yeah,
Drosnin.
The Omega Code.
There's guys who have duplicated his methods and found secret messages in...
I don't think he was talking code book in that sense.
But my point is, you take any big document and look at it expecting to find things that you can read significance into, and you're going to find them. And there's all kinds of different ways to do that, and the more you play with mathematics or the more special conditions you impose on it, the harder it is to find them, but you're still going to find them because it's just random chance, dude.
I'm sorry we let him go, because I'm 99% sure that his code book theory has nothing at all to do with mathematics. He's talking about strictly interpretation, because his claim is that it's divinely inspired, and that he can perceive the codes, not in a sense code, it was probably poorly worded. He can see the message that so many other people of actual religions like Baptists and Methodists, they've overlooked, they've got it wrong, they've misinterpreted it. But that last caller can see the truth.
I'm not accusing him of specifically doing the Bible code thing. Right. I'm saying that prophecy is this act of taking great, big, elaborate documents and looking for significance in them and not understanding that significance is arising from completely natural things, random chance. In the case of the later writer quoting the previous writer, it's not a miracle that a later writer saw what an earlier writer wrote and incorporated it. That's not a miracle.
It's even less of a miracle. I think he was
trying to say that the earlier writer predicted what the later writer was going to say, but that's ridiculous. The later writer had access to the Old Testament.
It's more ridiculous because he's talking about Matthew, which was completely manipulated in order to fulfill as many possible claims of prophecy as possible. If you look through the Gospels and compare the differences between them, what you'll find is that Matthew has embellished things right down to the genealogy, which doesn't match the one in Luke, in order to match as closely as possible every single event that anyone could interpret as prophecy. The problem is that if you talk to, like I think it's either Judaism 101 or JewFAQ.org maybe. Any of those sites like that will explain which verses were considered actual Jewish prophecy before Jesus showed up and which weren't, and how Jesus actually didn't fulfill any of the Jewish prophecies about a Messiah.
Well, he can explain it all to you in his email.
Send me a mail. I'll be happy to have discussions on it, but 15, 20 minutes of I realize it's divinely inspired and I can see what all these other religions have overlooked. Okay, cool. Good on you.
Let's go.
We got, hey, I don't think this is updated. This isn't Steve, is it?
Is it? My name is Steve. Am I
It
on?
is. You're on.
Okay. I didn't get filtered, but I'm not a crank.
Okay, well, that's all right.
So, I just want to say something about getting irritated when people irritated at Christians, I guess, as an atheist. And one thing that I think people have a little bit different attitude depending on what their experience with the Christian religion is in their past. And I'm someone that I was brought up in a pretty liberal Christian background. So I was one of these people that you were kind of irked at for, in a sense, yes, it's nice that you're liberal, but about...
You're still implicitly endorsing the Bible and the fundamentalists.
What makes you continue to do it? And I guess I basically just... but when I when I was in high school and we were doing our, join the church kind of thing, I was quite serious about it. I took it quite seriously, and there was a part of it we had to write a statement of faith, where it was pretty much open-ended. You just write down, here is what I believe, and you went and sat and had a little interview with the pastor. And mine included a bunch of things like, people that are born that never heard of God couldn't possibly be sent to hell because, that would be wrong. So, I was already kind of like projecting my own morality onto things, irregardless of what was in, with no reference to any particular biblical foundation,
Yeah.
And also, the irritation that people, someone mentioned that different levels of irritation that people are irritated with more fundamentalist people than even Christians are irritated with people that are more fundamentalist, and they kind of react the same way. I was already like that. I was already kind of mad. The same people I'm mad at now are pretty much the same people I was mad at then. It's just now I realize I can leave it all behind, right? So, and but I don't. I guess it's made me into a different kind of. I guess the atheist I am is a product of, in part, not so much what I believe, but my attitude about Christians is based on my experience being upbringing being a Christian, right? And,
yeah. I think you and I are coming from a similar place, right?
Could be.
Because I was raised Methodist,
okay,
which is pretty darn liberal as Christianity goes. But in the years since I have realized that I didn't believe any of it, and looking back on the time I spent in church, one of the things I noticed was you could find those Jack Chick tracts, the little horrific comic books about what horrible things are going to happen to people that don't join up. You could find those in the Methodist Church.
Yeah.
There was no evidence of anybody in a position of authority in the church noticing those things were there or having a problem with them. So what I'm saying is there was an undercurrent of much darker, more sinister, more fundamentalist belief going on that the happy, touchy-feely liberal Christians seemed completely oblivious to.
Right.
And that makes me very concerned.
Yeah, it's a way for things to be glossed over, I guess. And
yeah, I'm afraid that what actually happens with liberal Christianity is it merely functions as a relatively safe placeholder for that body of beliefs, and it's only a matter of time before the darker, more sinister, hostile, dangerous stuff comes out.
Well, and it can be an enabler of bad things, right? By sort of stepping aside and just letting them happen.
Yeah, and this is why when I talk to liberal Christians, I asked you, not you, but I asked them, what is the point? Why do you cling to the beliefs if you've dispensed with all of the threats that made the beliefs supposedly necessary in the first place?
Yeah,
I don't get it.
I think
it seems like a completely pointless exercise.
It is a pointless exercise, but I think there are people who see it not as a threat-based system. I think they think that it is explaining reality. I think they actually think this is what's real. They think that it's a moral system. They think that it's somehow that's where it comes from, and so they don't see it that way. And so the threat, if they remove the threat, that doesn't take that away.
I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but I still don't get it, because in order to believe that stuff represents reality means making a decision that it represents reality. And I don't understand the basis for that decision. If you're not obligated to accept it because of some religious dogma, right? Then there's, the normal course of affairs, you would never imagine that there's a big guy up in the sky pulling the strings.
I agree.
And
that's the process I went through.
I don't get it.
I rejected it. But I think that people that don't necessarily go through the process of establishing what's real to the level that you're talking about, I think they basically kind of just feel it, right?
Yeah.
And
it's comfortable.
It's not a good explanation as to why somebody should believe these things. It's just why people do.
Yeah,
it's definitely not a reason why people should. People should consider what it actually implies and continue.
Well,
but,
Christianity includes a lot of self-justifications that
right.
you can't touch this with your intellect. You have to have faith. So that puts off any ability to critically examine it.
And then that's what I don't
understand. But you can't understand, Jeff.
But if somebody tells me, here's the thing I can't understand, my normal reaction is, okay, fine, I'll go do something else. Right? Why would I then, having been told I can't understand it, why would I go to the trouble of going ahead and believing it anyway?
Because
when
if
there's no need. Well, if you're promised a reward, then there is a payback for being a Christian, and that's what I keep trying to find out from these people who tell us, "Oh no, nothing bad happens to atheists." I'm a Christian, but I don't believe anything bad happens to atheists. Then why are you a Christian?
Because
if you don't need to be a Christian in order for something better to happen to you, why bother?
They just continue what they were told. It's much easier to just continue on and not consider these things. It's the easy way just to continue.
Not
the right answer, but it is very easy to understand why people do it. I think.
Mom and Dad believe, so I'm going to believe.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thanks very much for your call.
The other thing was when people tell me, if I don't get into too many big discussions, I kind of just avoid it. But when it happens, I just say, I don't believe I'm going to hell. And it doesn't matter why I don't believe it. I'm just not afraid of going to hell. It's just not going to happen to me. I was already that way when I was still a Christian. I still am. And it's a hard sell as far as from my point of view. It's a hard sell if you're trying to sell me something where first I have to get all afraid that I'm going to go to hell and then do something about it. That's just that's a big waste of time from my point of view. And I just don't want to spend any time on it.
I agree.
Anyway, thanks for letting me call.
Thanks a lot,
for having the show.
We end up taking Steve out of order, so let's. Is it Jimmy?
That's right.
How you doing, Jimmy?
Hey, how are y'all tonight?
Good.
I wanted to have a little philosophical discussion after I asked you the question that I was going to ask you, and that was, wouldn't we need to kind of sort of rewrite the Constitution? How would you rewrite it from an atheist perspective, and where do you believe your rights come from?
Our rights come from mutual agreement.
Mutual agreement. Okay, based on what?
Agreement of the people that are having the discussion.
Basically, I don't want people to steal my stuff, so I'm going to agree not to steal theirs. And anybody who holds a similar philosophy joins together, and when we then say, okay, we're not going to steal from each other, and we're going to punish those who do.
Okay, you said the word my. Well, what made it yours? You found it first?
In most cases, I probably purchased it from somebody else, and
Okay.
I'm assuming that it was theirs because they either made it, grew it, or whatever.
Or whatever. Well, you know,
And
what's the whatever?
that's a whole other thing.
Let's get down
sure.
to let's get this diesel engine going here. What's whatever?
But
Finish that up for me.
just a second. There was a second question that I want to dispense with, which was how would we change the Constitution?
Yeah.
We wouldn't. It's fine.
Okay.
It's Christians that want to change the Constitution.
Well, I guess I think I agree with you.
Not all.
I would
there are
change the
Christians that want to
Constitution,
change
but
the
I'm not.
Constitution.
I would change the Constitution, but I don't know that I would change it much, and I certainly don't have ready answers as to what I would change. I think I would word things so that they're much more clear, so that there is less room for loopholes that favor some beliefs and I'm not just talking about religions, but some philosophical positions and to the detriment of other people's rights or freedoms or whatever else. So that equality is truly represented.
Okay,
But it's not like atheists want to completely change the Constitution and say, oh, I don't know, make religion illegal. We don't want anything like that.
I'd be happy if people just stopped trying to circumvent the Constitution.
Oh, I'm in full agreement.
Okay.
And I just, and I wouldn't want to change it either. And I wholeheartedly agree that it has been manipulated, and it has been, it's been basically pooped upon by a large Christian contingent.
Okay, so back to your other question then.
So you asked where the rights came from, and my answer was pretty much mutual agreement.
Right.
And then you asked about this concept of my or possession.
Right.
And I'd say that that's also by mutual agreement as well.
Okay. So it's basically two or more parties rationalizing something.
And can I ask you, caller,
Yeah.
where do you think they come from?
Well, with less than two people, you don't need anything.
Right. If you're
I think
alone
they
on a
come
desert
from
island,
God.
there are no rules.
It's all mine, and I can make there's no reason for any rules if it's just me.
Right.
So we're only talking about cooperative societies.
I think the rights come from God. I didn't want to get up and have a there's a God, no, there's not a God discussion.
No, that's fine. We won't do that.
Okay. Well, no. I'm saying I'm
but
not
I do have a follow-up question.
Okay. You on the right there, my right, gentleman, said something about rationality. Basically, it's not. We make laws and we operate on a system of rationality. And I want to just take that a little further and go, well, everything. In my opinion, it's kind of relative. Let's just say that a small, and we wish smaller percentage of people kill other people, murder, and and those are, I guess, we would call those bad people. And let's just say, and this is not an analogy. This is just an example that may or may not be related. Let's just say that the atheist contingent is, just exponentially tiny compared to people that are deists.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Now, one of the principles of the Constitution. One of the principles of the Constitution that we talked about before, and this is something that's established by mutual agreement, is that it's there to protect the rights of the minority, no matter how small they are, from the whim of the majority. So that just because you come up with a 96% of the population who happens to think that the other 4% of the population should be enslaved, they don't get to do it.
Okay, I don't know why you went there, but let me just build.
You talked about how hypothetically atheism being. Well, I guess the big thing is. You need to get to whatever point you're making, because you've hit like 5 things and we're not sure exactly what you're getting at.
Okay. Well, sorry if this is a problem, but here we go. You back to the rationality thing. Why can't it just be that Joe Blow, who murdered a family of 4, is a bad person? How come it's just not that he's just irrational? I mean, why don't you explain that to me, where rationality comes from, what we're good and evil or good and bad, every kind of scientific, social explanation for this world, which is black and white, in my opinion. I mean, your job, in my opinion, is to be ready and to have what it takes to answer these questions, to keep answering questions. Where is rationality from?
Who says it has to be from something? I tell you where it's from. It's from my mind.
Okay.
Where did God come from?
I don't know.
Okay.
Do you believe that, and I think this is something we might both disagree on, but do you believe in a spinning mass of blah, blah, blah that exploded and then here we are talking? I mean...
Are you talking about the common misrepresentation of the Big Bang Theory that
sure.
people like?
Yeah, I would like to explain.
No,
I'd
it's
like
wrong.
your take on the Big Bang Theory.
Our take on. Why don't you talk to some physicists?
Yeah.
Because you're sitting right there.
No,
Dude,
See,
fine. Then tell us where your God came from. You're expecting us to speak as experts on the science that explains the universe.
You're expecting
and
the
yet
world
you
to
refuse.
prove to you that
you
there isn't-
refuse
that
to
there-
speak.
I put you on hold.
So you refuse to speak as an expert on the issue of your religion. You can't say your religion is immune to questioning and then put us on the spot and insist that I'm an artist. Right? Matt, I don't know what the hell Matt does for a living. But, we are not physicists. We are not going to sit here and describe the science to you, nor is our position going to be undermined by that fact, any more than yours is undermined by your inability to explain where your God came from.
Additionally,
Okay,
let me finish.
Okay.
Even if the explanation for the Big Bang is completely wrong, even if evolutionary theory is completely wrong, which is impossible at this point, but let's assume they were, it still doesn't prove anything at all about the God that you claim you believe in. The burden of proof is on you. I don't have to explain. Atheism is the lack of belief in a God. And I'll go more specifically. I don't believe in your God, and I don't have to justify that by telling you how the universe began or how humans evolved or anything else. I don't need any justification at all because the burden of proof is on you.
To prove that there is a God. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I pick one thing, and you're just sitting here saying, "Go ask a scientist."
No,
Sure.
If you want the best answer possible, you of course ask a scientist and not some guys.
I
on
like
a
this
TV
one-way
show.
street, Ron. I've got to prove something that is it's beyond your understanding. If I were a God and I was going to make a universe, I wouldn't want you up my behind.
Piss off. You just don't understand. The burden of proof is on you, and it's not because we don't like your God. It's because you're making an exceptional claim which violates everything we know about reality, start to finish, and you do so with no evidence to support it. If you want to believe in a God, that's fine. If you want others to share your belief, prove it. That's it.
Okay. I have nothing else to add.
I mean, I can give you an explanation of the Big Bang. I can explain some elements of evolution. We do a lot of this at the Wiki to try and answer as many questions as we possible. Wiki.ironchariots.org. There's facts on the website. There are plenty of pages from real scientists at Talk Origins and other things that answer these deep apologetical questions that are brought up by Christians. My God explains where I come from. No, he doesn't. God is a complete non-explanation. It is a non-answer. It's a stopping point. It's a way to fill gaps in knowledge. The answer is, I don't know how the universe began, but somebody says that God did it. Well, where did God come from?
We could be accused.
I don't know.
We could be accused of doing something similar and saying, I don't know how the universe got here, but some scientists say it was the Big Bang. Right? We could be accused of that. The difference is that what is known about the Big Bang is not based on faith. What's known about the Big Bang, and don't ask us to describe it, and we'll give you a layman's description if we had to, but there was no point to that.
Because atheists don't have to accept the Big Bang.
That's true. But what is known about the Big Bang is not based on faith. It's not some scientist sat down and prayed really hard and came up with that and said that God told them, right? It's based on theories that predicted what the universe would have to be like if something like the Big Bang happened, and then they did the experiments to test whether those implications of the theory were true, and when they turned out to be true, they said, darn, it looks like we have settled upon something close to a accurate answer to that question.
And then we found these scrolls buried under the pyramids that confirm the Big Bang.
Oh, shut up.
Oh, no, that never happened. That's religious nonsense. Gosh.
Right.
It's
if you want to know why people like Matt and me take science seriously and don't take religion seriously, it's because religion is based on faith, which is the same as saying people believe it just 'cause. Not because there's any proof, but just 'cause. Science is not like that. Scientists do not say what they say just 'cause. They are not pulling it out of their butts.
Yeah, for those who actually can't see the program, if you're listening on the podcast, we do have a little sign on the front of the desk that we change what it says week to week. But right this week, it happens to say faith is just gullibility. And I'm particularly glad that we happened to pick that one. Maybe it's a sign.
It is a sign.
Oh, it is a sign, and it's blue and pretty. And thanks to Don Baker for coming up with this.
Yeah, thank you, Don.
Really handy. Let's go on. We got like 9 minutes left in the show. We got Brad. How you doing?
All right.
Hi, Brad.
I had a question. Why does it concern you or atheists in general what Christians think of them?
George Bush, not our current president, but the previous George Bush president, said, when asked, that he did not believe that atheists should be considered citizens.
Or patriots.
Or patriots.
He didn't consider them patriots.
Does that answer your question?
They should be considered citizens.
Do we need to get more clear than that?
Not really, but it doesn't really concern me that you think that Christians are gullible.
Well, I'm saying the answer is, does it bother me that some Christian may have a negative opinion of me? No. What bothers me are the actions that are taken on behalf of those beliefs. When you've got the President of the United States, in this case a former president, speaking out against atheists, saying that they're not patriotic and shouldn't be considered citizens, that should... Can you imagine what would happen if, like, for example, Clinton had come out and said Christians aren't patriots and they shouldn't be considered citizens? There would have been an uproar that a president, a public figure of authority, said that. It's completely disrespectful. It encourages a mindset, and it encourages other people to continue to marginalize a certain segment of the population. So while, I don't care if every Christian in the world thinks that I'm deceived by Satan, off my rocker, or just an asshole who likes to do a TV show. That doesn't bother me personally. What bothers me are the actions that people take on behalf of those beliefs that infringe on the rights of others with no justification.
I'm bothered slightly more than Matt because my concern kicks in at the level of the organized dissemination of the view that atheists are bad, subhuman, not citizens, or whatever all else you folks want to say about us. The organized dissemination of that information is simply, one step before actual actions. And I think that's the point at which we ought to be speaking up and saying, why don't you people shut the fuck up and stop insulting us constantly? Okay.
For one thing, I wasn't aware that he said that, and he was, if that in fact is what he said, he was totally wrong.
I agree, and I hate to cut you off again. We'll let you talk. I just want to say one quick thing. Jeff and I both understand that not all Christians feel in any particular way, and not all Christians are guilty of attacking atheists, which we brought out earlier.
Christians that don't say things like that about us are exempted.
But anyway, things seem to be starting to turn around in your favor. But anyway, that being what it may, I would also just like to specify that you're never going to see any proof that God exists. The only time I ever saw any proof was after I got faith, and that's what faith is
believing without
in
proof.
Something without the proof.
We know that. We are fully aware that faith is believing without proof. And that's why we call it gullibility, because that's what gullibility is. It's believing without proof.
And the only thing I can really say is that I didn't get the proof that you got when I had faith, when I was a Christian for 20-some-odd years. For those people who, God spoke to them or touched their life or whatever, He didn't do that for me, so it's not my fault. And, if you claim that you've had that experience or that faith allowed you to discover the truth or opened your mind's eye or whatever.
And by the way, personal experiences that individuals interpret as proof of God are not proof of God any more than an individual looking down the highway on a hot day and believing that they see water on the highway when it's a mirage, it's an optical illusion. The fact of that person believing they see water on the highway is not proof that what they are seeing is water, okay? The proof comes when there's independent verification of those personal experiences, right?
Okay, you can't tell me that the proof I got was not real proof.
Yes,
right.
I can. I am telling
Actually, we both
I am telling you that is not real proof. It doesn't count.
You don't know what it is.
Because
it doesn't matter what it is.
You are aware that human beings are capable of being deceived. They are capable of misinterpreting one thing as something else. They are capable of hallucinating. Because that's a fact, individual experiences cannot count as proof of a God. And if you think that they do, you are confusing yourself.
Well, then your belief had better be right.
Well,
excuse me, what do you mean by that?
That believing that there is no God, because if there is, you're in trouble.
Well, first of all,
I'm in trouble? What do you mean by that?
Well, because if my belief is correct
Yes.
and your belief is wrong,
Yes.
is not,
Yes.
then what are you going to do when you stand at the throne of God?
I'll
going to
say,
ask him a lot of questions.
What a surprise. There was no evidence that this was true.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
You say, well, I sent plenty of evidence, you just refused to see it.
Refused? I'm not refusing to see it. I'm using the brain that I've got. Is there something wrong with that?
Do you really think...
No, you're refusing.
Do you really think... And let me just do this as simply as possible because we've got just a couple minutes left.
Suppose I was... Okay.
Do you really think that if there is a God, that he would punish people for using their brains and actually expecting real, independently justifying evidence and reward gullibility instead?
Yes.
Okay. Good luck.
Fine.
If you think that's morally
religion,
right...
That is why religion is reprehensible, and in my opinion, people should stop doing it. I don't think it should be illegal, but I really advise everybody to stop doing it.
I would have asked him if he thought it was okay to stone kids at the edge of the town for being unruly. But, once your morality is that skewed that you can think that that is a just system, it's really kind of pointless.
Wow.
We got like 2 minutes. Hurry up. Is it Curly? Yeah. And this is supposed to be Ed, but I hope it's not Larry or Joe.
Hello, it's Ed.
Hi, Ed.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
I'm glad to see y'all back on.
Thank you,
Ed.
You
had three, I guess, Christian lights, or I guess...
oh, not that last guy.
Yeah, that was the fourth one.
Yeah.
The first three, though, were kind of light. You know how they have atheist light and, whatever. But
okay.
Christianity light.
Yeah, Christianity light and one heavy duty. It didn't surprise me that he didn't know anything about what our government had to say about atheists, or at least the prez. So, just want to say welcome back, and good to see y'all back on the air.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ed. As a reminder, the show's almost over. We got a little over a minute. We're going to be going to Threadgill's down in Riverside. I know the announcement was just up on the screen, but I didn't want to interrupt him. Any atheists or atheist-friendly people, welcome to join us. Come down, have dinner, talk, and meet some of the people behind the scenes who make this show work and do really good stuff on the weeks that we're not preempted. And along with some other ACA members, some good food, good chance to meet other people.
I'm actually going today.
Are you?
Yeah.
Because I don't know that I am. Well, I'll go, but I'll probably just have like iced tea or something. It's... I completely forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll pick up from what Ed was saying.
Yeah.
We had three liberal Christians willing to share life here on our planet with us without particularly insulting us, and that's nice. But as soon as you get a Christian who's a little more serious about it, out come the threats.
Yeah.
Out come the threats.
You're never going to
and,
find any
implied
evidence
insults.
until you just believe, and then you'll get all kinds of it. Well, that, if you think that system's, I don't know, he's got a really crazy
What are we
idea
going to
about
say
a
when we're
just
standing up in
system.
front of the throne? Well, I'd say the truth, and he never got around to telling me what he thought would happen after I said that to his big imaginary friend.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again next week, and can't remember who's going to be here, but we'll have fun anyway. Tune in again, 4:30.
Bye-bye.